Okay, so today is going to be a somewhat different format because I deliberately waited all weekend while researching and tracking social media in order to cover what I thought would be an emerging story. But apparently, that isn't quite the case. The subject was Dr. Disrespect, who was banned without any explanation, sparking one of the greatest conspiracy theory festivals that Twitch has ever seen. When there is more clarity on this topic, I will absolutely cover it. I wanted to do a video about the saga of Dr. Disrespect from start to finish or something like that, but since it seems apparent today is not the day, I will wrap some portions of that story up into a wider analysis of bans and deplatforming, which is happening all across the internet right now, from Twitch to YouTube and beyond. Obviously, the first point to make is that Dr. Disrespect was indeed permanently suspended by Twitch as a platform. Twitch refunded his current subscribers, Discord revoked his partnership on top of that, and even certain sponsors took down his name and his branding from their websites, only to put that material back up the following day, which has led to rampant speculation on why all of this has happened. It really is an interesting chain of events, from the eerie final moments of his last broadcast to theories about corporate espionage and competing platforms aiming to dethrone Twitch itself as the dominant presence in the streaming industry. However, all of that is best suited for a dedicated video by itself, of which there are many at this time, and I don't need to do my own analysis until we actually know the truth. But within the complex spiderweb of confusion, there is a key moment I want to focus on. Following his initial suspension/termination, Dr. Disrespect, and keep in mind this is a creator who has a multi-year, multi-million dollar exclusivity contract with Twitch itself, signed not too long ago, but following his initial ban, Dr. Disrespect finally made a statement after speculation had kicked into complete overdrive that he did not in fact have any idea why he was banned at all. The strange thing is that a bunch of other streamers and industry insiders claim to have full knowledge, but conveniently won't say anything until others do, which puts them in a position of false credibility, because when the news finally does break, all they have to do is claim, "Yup, I knew, but I couldn't say because I'm so moral and ethical." I do believe that a select few of these individuals might know, but it is highly unlikely, downright impossible, honestly, for most of them to have any idea, because a secret from Twitch, locked down, and successfully, I might add, to such an extreme, is quite obviously something that would not be percolating the lower tiers of streaming personalities, else it would be common knowledge by now. The important part, zeroing in on the simple phrase that has been sadly overlooked by so many people thus far, is from Dr. Disrespect stating Twitch has not notified me on the specific reason behind their decision. That's alarming, more so than the ban itself even. That's unbelievably scary because if he is telling the truth, and to be clear, that's a big if right there, the structure of Twitch bans make it so that the streamer can simply say whatever they want about the issue, and Twitch themselves almost never speak publicly at all, letting one side of the narrative effectively control public perception entirely. But taking that at face value, it means that a company with exclusivity payments directly to a multi-million follower channel terminated that relationship without warning and is not even telling the streamer why. This matters for 100 separate reasons, but the largest among them is reasonable safety. Obviously, at this point, we don't know the motivations behind the ban, unless it's posted literally as I type this, but relatively speaking, with regards to my main point, it wouldn't really change anything, so not a big deal. The speculation is that it must be some sort of legal case, and asserted by a fellow streamer with plausible insider access in terms of relationships with Twitch executives. The decision was given to Trust and Safety by an outside department, insinuating that the legal team said, "It's over, now you ban him." Still, reducing this down to the most fundamental points, one of the largest streamers on the entire platform with an active exclusivity contract worth millions of dollars got permanently banned, claims to have no idea why, while others apparently know outside of the actual legal department at Twitch. And if this is taken at face value, how in the world can anyone on that entire platform have any faith in their own safety? If Twitch will terminate one of the largest and most powerful broadcasters on the internet, quite literally, with an active, personal, contractual, and financial relationship to and with them, how in the world can anyone else have any reasonable faith in their own job or platform security? That, however, is just the start. This also comes in a time period where many creators are being deplatformed, and the atmosphere is becoming more and more curious surrounding all of it. Perhaps the most high-profile suspension in history is United States President Donald Trump, whose campaign was suspended from Twitch for hateful conduct, which involved the deletion of 2 rally streams, one from as far back as 2016. The context here is not fully clear, but factoring in the reality that certain groups have claimed that Donald Trump is a racist, xenophobic, bigoted individual, a whole bunch of different things for many years, and advocated during that time that he be deplatformed, why is this decision only coming down now? This is, again, just the start. Twitch has also been reckoning over the past week or so with a deluge of sexual assault allegations, and their response was a commitment to investigate and ban based on those claims, with law enforcement referrals when necessary, which is, if done right, to be fair, an excellent approach. We have already seen the effects of this, and a streamer named Loco, as well as another by the name Slasher, seem to have chronicled a few of the bans that coincide with allegations as documented by a long and growing spreadsheet that emerged some time ago. I Am Spoon, Bless RNG, Warwitch TV, Dreaded Cone, Wolf21, and at this stage, undoubtedly many more, have been banned as a result of these proceedings. And as far as I can tell, there is an element of confession behind a few of these, at least two, I think, which makes it fairly self-explanatory as to why they were permanently suspended. But in a case where the perpetrator or accused legitimately does not know, or has not somehow publicly confessed to certain allegations, the lack of clarity in response to the question, why was I banned or why were they banned, is frankly unacceptable. With all that said, it really is still just the start because the lack of clarity extends all the way to internal circumstances as well. Hassan Bokhari, a well-known Twitch staff member, has been publicly accused of inappropriate conduct, which will be rightly referred to as allegations until proven. But this accusation has been met with absolute silence from both him and Twitch, despite containing truly troubling material. Some Ordinary Gamers did an excellent video diving deeper into this topic in much the same way I believe most people, or many people at least, have overlooked the important claim of Dr. Disrespect that he does not have clarity from Twitch on their decision, at least not yet. Some Ordinary Gamers outlined an important line from the allegations against Hassan in which it is alleged that he used a partner intake form to acquire a girl's private phone number to then text her. On top of this, there are lengthy claims about how he would share revenue contracts, dashboard analytics, work emails, ban decisions, and even company secrets, though there is little in the way of evidence to define what that part actually means. This, if true, is catastrophic. The sexual and emotional claims are far more subjective, ill-defined, and honestly hard to analyze because in one breath there are claims that she would text him things like, I can't wait to kiss you, I love kissing you, I can't wait for or to do various explicit things, but in the other there are accusations that his behavior was unacceptable and unwanted. It's not my place to delve deeper into that side of things, really, it just isn't. But the important point to highlight is that as of the making of this video, no visible action has been taken by Twitch with regards to this particular case, where other cases, seemingly less severe in nature, have had drastic, often unclearly defined or flat out mysterious in nature, actions taken on behalf of or against them, and this inconsistency is reaching critical mass. On the one hand, Twitch promotes a controversial figure who expresses a sentiment such as, I have power and you can't take it away from me. People should be afraid of me. And Twitch promotes that person to a position of power, a trust and safety council of all things, ironically. While on the other, they take exorbitant and swift action against some cases, while seemingly turning a blind eye to more severe and pressing infractions within their own corporate structure. They have a high-ranking staff member who allegedly utilized his position in a host of inappropriate ways, not just one, but their focus is turned towards banning the president for comments that he made 4 years ago. I can understand and support their decision to evenly enforce their terms of service, even when it applies to the president or large, highly profitable broadcasters on their platform. But consistency is the last thing that can ever be said about Twitch. But here comes the most interesting part. None of this is confined to just Twitch right now. Reddit has just now banned over 2,000 communities. These communities are not necessarily politically homogenous either, but they do seem to trend towards the conservative end of the spectrum. That being said, there are examples from the opposite side as well contained in that giant, enormous list. And the motivation for this massive purge is a crackdown on hate speech, which overhauled the company's policy with regards to what content it will now police. Here is where we all need some intellectual fortitude, I like to call it, because it may seem easy to say, well, that's just hate speech, only racists would want that around, so it's good it's all getting purged. And sure, that's a valid train of thought that holds up for all of 2 milliseconds, till you realize that isn't actually true. It is not all hate speech, and this is a reactionary maneuver to pacify a movement that does not even know what it actually wants. The current activist movement, not just in the United States either, but in many other countries around the globe, has lost all reason and consistency, much like Twitch. Haha. For example, what started as an endeavor to tear down Confederate monuments, something that can be explained and justified, with an effort to transition these to a purely historical context, like museums, for example. That's not what happened, though. They just want to tear them down and destroy them, not rightly place them in the archives of history. They want them gone because they are offensive. What started as a possibly defensible transitional period devolved consistently. After Confederate generals, it was Christopher Columbus. The movement made a transition to anti colonization, while forcefully claiming and occupying, ironically, a section of Seattle under that guise. Then it mutated again. Statues of George Washington were defaced, a founding father of this nation, without whom America would simply not exist. And if we trace back through these recent hectic weeks, we can see that towards the beginning, the Lincoln Memorial had its steps vandalized. The president who fought a civil war against the Confederate generals whose statues are being torn down. How does that make any sense? How about Philadelphia and the monument of Matthias Baldwin, an outspoken abolitionist who had his statue defaced with the words colonizer and murderer? This movement has no defined message. This is not an effort to eliminate any one social construct. It is anarchist anger that blindly lashes out at whatever is put in front of it. And by now, many people are probably thinking, I have completely derailed from the title and the topic, but bear with me, because all of this ties back into the reactionary tactic by Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, and probably soon Twitter as well, to ban over 2,000 communities as a direct response to outrage and pushback that has been self-contradicting and changing since the moment it all began. Reddit is not doing this because those communities legitimately pose an existential threat to society. It is doing this because a movement predicated on outrage and control has demanded they eliminate the opposition. Simultaneously, though a direct link is not really visible, YouTube has suspended Stefan Molyneux, David Duke, American Renaissance, Richard Spencer, and about 25,000 more channels, some of whom are very outspoken conservative pundits or commentators with real radical views, but many are not, and the synchronicity here is impossible to ignore. Now, there needs to be some clarity here. These platforms are currently in hot water right now with regards to Section 230 protections and their ability to censor or control what is and is not posted by their users. But as it stands, they are absolutely able and willing to pick and choose what content is made available. That is entirely within their right under current laws. And on a personal, very opinionated note, as it stands, I do not really fundamentally disagree with them defining terms of service and then enforcing them. The problem is when they consistently change those terms and react to social outrage with new policies that necessitate new bans, new cleanses, and new purges. What we see is a consistent and devolving platform that will restrict with ever-increasing ferocity what is commonly perceived as unacceptable. But common perception of what is and is not acceptable has nothing to do with actual moral or ethical clarity, and everything to do with social norms. Somehow, some way, the modern social justice movement has convinced itself that the current snapshot of societal beliefs that they hold is paramount to perfection. This is the right way. Nothing previously was, and nothing in the future will be either, unless it supports what we believe here and now in this very moment. This becomes weaponized with boycotts, protests, and other forms of pushing their agenda onto big tech platforms. And the big tech platforms themselves are obviously swayed by these efforts, be it external or internal. The result is that we see bans becoming widespread and normal, content purges that systematically shrink the circle of acceptable discourse, whether that be on or off platform in the case of Twitch, which has an official policy that off-platform actions can result in a suspension or ban on platform. We see constantly modified expectations of what is and is not acceptable humor and acceptable statements in a way that contradicts itself more often than not and almost always catches innocent parties in the crossfire who have no actual relation to what is now being targeted, whether that be a certain meme, a certain hand gesture, or any sort of symbolism or language. Let's bring it full circle now, finally. This may seem so far removed from the initial examples that it makes no sense, but when we remember that lack of clarity is a central pillar to this discussion, it all should become connected. Platforms are wielding the ban hammer like a machine gun right now, an absolute machine gun, with little to no clarity on why or who is next, while constantly changing what parameters they even operate by. To make things even worse, there are rampant examples of users and content that should, under existing guidelines, even if I disagree with those guidelines, they should be targeted, but they're not for some reason. Or perhaps, though, through a lack of communication, they are, but no one knows. When you have social discourse platforms reacting to public pressure, but that public pressure literally evolves by the day, how can any freethinker justify that reality? The slippery slope fallacy should, at this point, to any competent human being, be proven as anything but a fallacy when applied to the shifting standards of censorship, banning, or deplatforming in modern big tech. Today, it's those 2,000 Reddit communities and those 25,000 YouTube pages. It's those streamers who have been accused of whatever it is they've been accused of, or those channels that have, who knows in some cases, but as of right now, apparently sometimes not the ones in power, executing abuses of the systems. Today, it is various creators who have strayed too close to the ever-evolving definitions of what is and is not against policy. And truly, if you take a look at the list of communities that have been banned on Reddit or channels that have been stricken from YouTube, it's a diverse cast of characters and personalities. It really isn't one-sided. It absolutely isn't. This isn't some kind of really well-defined thing that targeted a bunch of actually hateful individuals. This is a vast expansion on what they are getting rid of for really ill-defined reasons. But anyways, today it is various creators who have strayed too close to those evolving definitions, but tomorrow can be an entirely new set of users with no explanation who up till that very moment existed within the confines of what was acceptable. And if you move the goalpost a foot every single day, eventually you aren't even on the field anymore. Effectively, control itself is spiraling out of control because shifting expectations and evolving social norms for how one can speak, behave, or post content, when that evolution occurs at a faster rate than natural human behavior can be taught or modified, leads to an effect where clarity, stability, and safety are increasingly limited. There is a seemingly synchronized content purge taking place as of this video, right alongside some of the most nebulous creator bans I have ever seen in my entire career, and all of it paints a picture of control that has itself become uncontrollable. But that's it. I'll be doing a deep dive at some point in the future on why exactly this parallel wave of bans has popped up, because the myth of true corporate autonomy is an absolute sham. The reality is that if you trace backward through the pyramid of infrastructure, it can easily be seen that ACH payment processing providers have an absolute stranglehold on the operations of almost any business, not only in the country but around the world. So their dictation of what is and is not allowed for their customers in terms of hosted content is practically absolute, but that by itself will take a long time to analyze and will need a great deal more time. If you want to support, there are links down below: merch, Patreon, Twitter, other social media, and other gaming creators support as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.